I will now call to order the January 9th, 2025 meeting of the Santa Barbara Local Agency Formation Commission. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, before I call the roll, I would just like to note for the record that our new commissioner, Commissioner Roy Lee, has been sworn in as a voting member for today's meeting. Commissioner Freeman,
Here.
Commissioner Geyer,
Here.
Commissioner Hartman,
Here.
Commissioner Kiriakou,
Here.
Commissioner Magana, Commissioner Nelson, Commissioner Osborne. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Commissioner Patino,
Here.
Commissioner Richardson,
Here.
Commissioner Stark,
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Magana and Commissioner Nelson are absent.
Thank you. If you'd all please now join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, different era. Amen.
All right. Before we move on with our agenda, I'm going to announce that business item number 4 will be pulled today to be recalendared in the future at a date to be announced. There were concerns that the 10-year condition would affect the ability of the petitioners to get grant money. Okay, moving on to the minutes. Next item of business is the approval of minutes from the December 12th, 2024 meeting.
Hartman moves approval.
Second.
Motion by Hartman, second by Stark. Moving on to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Geyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriakou,
Aye.
Commissioner Patino,
Abstain.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Abstain.
Chair Freeman.
Aye.
Motion passes with 2 abstentions.
Thank you. Moving on to public comment. Now is the time for members of the public to speak on items that are not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak on items not on the agenda?
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, we have no request to speak under general public comment.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. Moving on to the approval of the consent calendar. Are there any items which commissioners would wish to pull? Is there any public comment?
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
I would entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Hartman, second by Geyer, whose mic was off. Can we move on to a roll call vote?
Commissioner Geyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriakou,
Aye.
Commissioner Patino,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Chair Freeman.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next item is changes of organization, item number 1. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, changes of organization item number 1 is to consider approval of LAFCO application file number 24-05 for the 700 Via Tranquila Sphere of Influence Amendment and annexation to the Goleta Sanitary District.
Thank you. Executive Officer to report.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Welcome to the new year. Sorry for the rough start. I am fighting a bit of a cold, so I'll probably limit my remarks, but we do have a PowerPoint. If we can get the PowerPoint up, I'll walk us through this application. All right, we'll proceed without the PowerPoint. 2025, welcome. So this is a request from property landowners at 700 Via Tranquilla to not only annex into the Goleta Sanitation District, but also amend their sphere of influence. In doing so, this area happens to be just on the outskirts of an existing territory that's been annexed into the district along Via Tranquilla. Right across the street is the La Carumba Mutual Water District. They own some property that was annexed, and when they annexed, they included a kind of a long finger that stood out from the district. This particular property sits adjacent to that across the street, and so the district was requested to also submit part of their application for plan for service, a letter requesting that the territory is acceptable to be within their boundary. And they did that along with their change. So the landowner is the applicant in this scenario. The property in question is 1.53 acres. It is to annex into the Goleta Sanitation District for sewer services purposes only. And the district is outside of the sphere of influence boundary, which was updated by the commission in 2023. The single parcel is for residential use. It will remain as a residential. It will, the boundary change will not change any of those. It's within the county as a residential 1.0. Again, the plan for services was accepted by the district, that they have adequate services to provide services to this property, and that they are the best suited to be able to provide service in the area. And that plan for services is included as attachment E. Being outside the sphere of influence, the commission has to adopt a number of factors that review those spheres of influence that deal with the preservation, the present and planned land uses. So these are consistent with the county's Eastern Goleta Valley Community Plan to allow residential development. The present and probable need for services includes water service from La Carumba Mutual Water Company. Santa Barbara Fire provides fire service, and the district Goleta Sanitation will provide sewer service. The capacity within and the adequacy of the services of the district has been adequate and is refined in the municipal service review. There's still capacity for at least 2.09 MGD. And again, it's been stated that the district has adequate capacity to provide service. The other two factors when amending a sphere of influence deals with the social and economic communities of interest. And it's part of the broader Goleta Valley area that provides all the shopping and services and opportunities. That doesn't change with this being amended to their sphere. And the last is whether or not the property is within an identified disadvantaged unincorporated community. It's been identified to not qualify for that. So with those determinations to be made as part of this recommendation, we can amend the sphere and take consecutive action to annex the property into the district. Staff has reviewed the Environmental Quality Act and find that Section 15319, which is the Class 19, is adequate for annexations into small parcels into the facility. Lastly, is the district and the landowner both have consented to this annexation as being part of the applicant, and that the parcel itself is contains less than 12 registered voters, so it's an uninhabited parcel, so we can proceed without protest proceedings. The conclusion is that the site is located in an area that does allow the district to be the best service provider, and that the sphere of influence revision and the annexation represents the reasonable and logical extension of services, and that staff recommends that the commission approve the amendment and annexation of 700 Via Tranquilla per staff's recommendation. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer any.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none, giving a little bit of pause in case anyone in Santa Maria wants to say anything. Is there any public comment?
Nothing here and no public comment.
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
All right, well, in that case, we can move on to a motion.
I'll move to approve option 1.
I'll second it. All six bullets?
Yes.
All 6 bullets in option 1.
Motion by Guyer, second by Stark. Moving on to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriako,
Aye.
Commissioner Patino,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Chair Freeman.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Next item is business item number 1. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, business item number 1 is to present a certificate of appreciation for Commissioner Doss Williams.
Executive Officer to report.
Okay, Chair, now this is our opportunity to thank Commissioner Williams for the service he's provided the commission over the years as he sat as an alternate and regular county member. So this is an opportunity that we'll give the commission to speak on that behalf, and Mr. Williams the opportunity to relay any sentiments back to the commission.
I was laughing for a moment because I've got Doss's video up here, and I was waiting for it's like, well,
He
I
is-
can see
he
him,
is
no one else
attended
can see him.
remote.
But now
He is
I see
attending
you've
remote.
added him to the video feed. So thank you for
He's
that.
on the video feed remotely. So we will get his plaque and all that to him after the fact, but we can certainly say our thank yous and best wishes to him.
Is there, did you say that we were going to have Doss say something, or was commission? Okay, Stark.
Oh, I didn't want to say something. I just wanted to note there's a plaque in addition to the certificate, so that would be part of the deal. That's
Harbin.
Well, I will never let an opportunity go by when I can at least honor the contributions of my good colleague, Doss Williams. I think he's really added a lot to the LAFCO and brings a bright energy and cheerfulness, and we really are grateful for all that he did.
Kiriako.
Well, Doss, I already recognized you at Beacon, but not everyone was here for that. So I guess I'll just say again, thank you for your many, many years of public service. It's been a long time since we first met in Sacramento, God, back in 1997 or whenever it was, when you were making it happen for the legislature. And just, thank you so much for your record of service at the local level, at the state level, and at the county level.
Guyer.
I kind of go back a long ways with Doss. I first came to Isla Vista in, I believe it was 1969, and I used to chase Doss and a group of teenagers out of annual dumpster diving in IV. So that goes back a little ways. But I've always appreciated, although we may not have always shared a common interest, but we've always been able to work together, and I've really appreciated that.
I've always appreciated Doss over the years. My entrance to local politics started in attending meetings that were run by Doss in Isla Vista with relation to the construction of the district that I am now on. And it was from those meetings that I learned about LAFCO and got interested in first applying to be a public member, then while running for supervisor, hoping that maybe I could become LAFCO member, and then finally succeeding in getting on LAFCO as part of being the district member on IVCSD. So over the years, I've been really pleasured to have had the to have been able to work with Doss on so many different things. And sorry to see you go, but yeah, hopefully moving on to good things. I'm looking down his face because that's what I'm doing. Okay. Is there any public comment?
Chair
Oh, we
Freeman.
have more people. Okay, Richardson.
Yes, I'd like to speak to Doss. This is Jim Richardson, Doss. I've known you for several years, and I've been interested in your career. And I learned more about it from Josh Molina's interview of you than I had ever expected. And I don't know if it was too much to know about you. Anyhow, we're sorry to see you go. Take care, man.
And from Santa Maria?
Yes, thank you. And Doss, thank you very much for your service to your community. I think it's really important when people do serve their community and are advocates for the constituency. I think that's very valuable. And we each have that constituency, and though it differs, whether it's North County or South County or just between districts, but you have never sat quietly without an opinion. And I respect having known you and served with you. And I know you will not be sitting quietly for the next few years. So thank you.
Stark.
Yeah, I didn't want to let Doss go thinking I cared more about his plaque than I did about his many years of government service. I'll miss Doss. He's been a lot of things in his community for a very long time. My experience with him goes back to Supervisor Rose's office when this extremely arrogant young fellow happened to be in the office. I had no idea what he was doing there. But in any event, I'll miss you. I'm looking forward to the pictures with Doss in his wetsuit surfing, and especially the ones with his little kids. They're very extraordinarily cute, and I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of them.
All right. Lee.
I'll just say something, Das. I got some big shoes to fill, so I'll do my best to make you proud. Thanks.
Okay. Moving on to public comment.
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, we have no request to speak under public comment.
Okay. As a business item, do we have a no motion?
Doss wants to say something.
Okay. Doss, would you like to say anything back to us?
Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to say something, and thanks for this. And not just the plaque, but the time that you've all spent with me. It means a lot to me. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I've been with my little girls on a Caribbean island for the past 20 days, snorkeling and scuba diving every day. So I couldn't make it that quickly back. But I just appreciate that the number one, I mean, this gig, I didn't know that if I was going to enjoy it or not, but I knew it was important to learn the mechanics of local agency formation. And there's some real powerful logics to the mechanism that it was really good to learn. Number two, it was just good to stick up for my constituents and help move forward, the concept of out-of-area service agreements as a way to provide some of the logic of an annexation but retaining control so you don't foster growth in places where it's unwanted. And then just the best thing has been just time with all of you. It's been a pleasure to work with each and every one of you. Some of us go back a long time, and some of us just a few years. But in each case, it's been regardless of your party preference or regardless of your background, it's been a pleasure to work with you because each of you has a powerful role to play and something that I've seen work on behalf of Santa Barbara County in multiple capacities. So I hope I'll get a chance to see you all again. And congratulations to Supervisor Lee for getting this gig right off the bat. And hope to see you all in another capacity.
Actually, I've been sitting here replaying what I said in my head and realizing that there's a lot of history and context that I assume when I say things that is not applicable here. And so I need to make certain that I understand that it's not just when I say that meetings in Isla Vista, the construction of IVCSD, Doss and I, maybe had a couple meetings. DOS ran a 1.5 year long set of weekly meetings in Isla Vista in order to construct that district, and got to know very deeply a lot of the people who were in that area. And those were the meetings that I attended, every single one of them, along with he and Darcel and the various other people that we were there. But it was the three of us that were there like every time. And the and it was that when I say that, so it's not like just, oh, it was like a couple things. It was like DOS was instrumental then in like teaching me the importance of what LAFCO was and why it was affecting the community and how we would end up constructing this district and why I ended up finding it so important to try to be on it. So,
And if I might add, I mean, he created that through the legislature, not through normal processes. Some on this LAFCO were not very excited about that, but it was really important because Isla Vista has a huge population without a government, and so the CSD is performing that function, and I think really unfolding the way that the vision that DOS helped foster the community develop unfold. So it's really exciting.
all right. Unless anyone else has any last things to add, moving on to business. Oh, is there a motion for us to make?
We don't need a motion for this. We'll just present DOS with his certificate.
Okay. It wasn't so good. It was a business item, and sometimes business item, it's okay. Moving on to business item number 2. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, business item number 2 is to consider selection of commission regular public member to 4-year term and alternate public member for appointment to 2-year term beginning March 1st, 2025.
Executive officer to report.
Okay, great. All right, so as I get into the initial part of this report, I would ask that our 2 current public members, Commissioner Stark and Commissioner Richardson, please step down from the dais and join their fellow applicants in the audience. In the blue seat. Yeah. You don't have to hide. You don't have to hide. You're one of the 4. So the commission is aware that we did have 4 applications that were interviewed by the ad hoc committee as part of this process. All 4 of them are previous commissioners in some capacity or form, so it was a tough selection to go through, but I think it was a well-ran ad hoc meeting, deliberation and thought that what went into this. What I will note is that all 4 of them had a preference to be the regular member, but all 4 of them also agreed that they could be an alternate member. So it could go either way. It's up to the commission ultimately to decide on who you think is best fit for that role. They've all agreed they just want to be on LAFCO in some capacity, I think is kind of the general sentiment of that. Ultimately, the ad hoc committee did make a recommendation. They recommended Ms. Janelle Osborne to be the regular member and Roger Aceves to be the alternate member. So that is the recommendation that's coming from the ad hoc committee. But again, this is an opportunity to continue that interview process with the full commission. So I suspect that you'll have questions ready to ask all 4 applicants, give them an opportunity to express themselves, why they'd like to be on the commission, allow that public comment to occur, and then the commission can deliberate. And ultimately, what we'd like to see here are 2 separate motions and 2 separate votes. A motion on the regular member seat, and then a vote and a motion and a vote on the alternate member seat. And we'll see where the votes lie, and we'll go from there.
Maybe before we have the applicants speak, if there's anyone on the commission who has any thing that they would like to have as a question that's in the minds of the applicants while they're speaking, is there anything that we would like to make certain that they say? Were any questions about the process in general or anything that we should address before we move on to that stage? Seeing none, moving on to how about we start hearing from the applicants? You did say that's what we would do. We should select which one, I guess. In the agenda, there happens to have been an arbitrary order here, or maybe alphabetical or something. But attachment A was Shane Stark. How about we begin with Shane Stark?
Actually, I hate to shake things up here, mess things up here. Having thought about things after the interview process and seeing the staff report, I'd like to change my preference. Frankly, I prefer to have a 2-year term. I don't much care whether I'm the voting member or the alternate member, but I feel more comfortable with sitting for 2 years than I do at 4 years at my age. If you want to know my age, I'll tell it to you, but here's a secret, it's old. Yeah, given from that, I don't know what you want to hear. I'm more concerned, frankly, with building on the relationships that I've developed over the past, I guess, 9 years that I've been on the commission than I am in exercising the power in the vote. I have no problem with maintaining the voting member having the 4-year seat. That's how it's noticed. And I'd be frankly more comfortable with a 2-year seat than I would with a 4-year seat. I'm happy to go back to being an alternate and participating to the extent that you can. And frankly, I've done a good job. I get along with pretty much everybody on the commission, and I'd like to continue for a couple of years anyway. I could keel over.
Okay, actually, Hartman's the questions. Why don't we're still on the first person. Why don't we get the question in? And so, yeah.
Yeah. Shane, did you represent LAFCO in the state in some formal capacity?
Well, that's a formal capacity is maybe pushing it a little bit. I was the board rep. I was on the board as the coastal public member of the Cal LAFCO Board of Directors. Served 1 term, lost a squeaker at 7-6 for a second term to somebody that lives 400 miles closer to Sacramento than I do, which is a good thing. But yeah, I was on the Cal LAFCO board. I still get along with some of the people, including their executive director. I didn't have bad relations with Cal LAFCO, but that's about it. I'll point out that what I do when I'm not on LAFCO now is I'm on the board of a local nonprofit, which is what Cal LAFCO is, which I found helpful in dealing with the board. That's about it. Otherwise, I rarely leave the Mesa.
Thank you. Moving on to attachment B, Jim Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I think that you noticed my application, my resume. It's brief so that you can read it and understand what my qualifications are to be on LAFCO. You know, I was on LAFCO for 5 years as a city member and now 3 years as an alternate. And I have the experience. I have actually, it's really a pleasure to come and sit here and listen, although I've heard it mentioned that why don't I speak up and say something? and there's 2 reasons for that in my mind. Number one, I don't get to vote. So I don't know what power my voice would have in changing a vote. Number 2 is that these, dang, my mind just went blank on me. The stuff that Mike Prather has been putting forth, these things. Why am I forgetting it?
Agendas? Packets?
Packets, there we go. Thank you for that. Don't let that little sharp lack of memory influence you in any way. We had a president that allowed that to happen, so I'm allowed. What I'm trying to point out is that the packets are so well put together that there's not much discussion about the item as it's being discussed. It's pretty much cut and dried. Fill out a form, sign your name, and you've been granted a sewer attachment to a sewer district. So as I sit here and watch these discussions, I don't think I could put anything add anything to the discussion that would make, like I say, a change, because it's so ministerial, actually. So, but for those reasons, I would like to still continue to serve on LAFCO as an alternate or as I'd rather be a city member, but that's beyond. But I would be happy to serve as a 4-year member or a 2-year member. But the 2-year member is wonderful for Green. I don't want to compete with Shane, so. Anyhow, I hope you consider me. I'm going to ask each one of you for my vote, for your vote. So, thanks very much anyhow.
Thank you. Moving on to attachment C, Janelle Osborne.
And support for being appointed at the 4-year. I, like any of the applicants, am happy to serve in either capacity. I feel that my short time on LAFCO allowed me to begin learning the importance of its organization, witness the change we're going through to be a more modern organization. I'd like to continue that work. And as one of the only members that have served on LAFCO that was representative of a full-service city, I have the experience not only with water, wastewater, but power, streets, all of the things that go into considerations when we're looking at annexations or service providing. And that would be some experience that is lacking on the current, and I would like to return and provide that. So thank you for your time. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to attachment D, Roger Aceves.
When I left the commission 2 years ago, my last comments to the commission was, I want to come back when there's a public member position available, because I enjoyed the work that LAFCO does. I spent many years as a member, I was chair twice. So I'm totally familiar with the process, I'm totally familiar with what we've gone through. And as Ms. Hartman mentioned, I totally remember when we went through the Isla Vista, because those were some very, I want to say contentious, but they're very fulfilling meetings in that we had full rooms here and people wanted to have their voices heard. I just didn't agree with the way it happened, and that was my only objection. I agree with the Commission's recommendation that you should have alternating terms of 4 years and 2 years, because you don't want to have 2 people leave every year and have 2 more people come in. You want to maintain the experience. So if you have the 4-year and 2-year term, it makes a difference. And the only last thing is, what Mr. Richardson mentioned as far as sitting there not saying anything, that's not me. I will be participating. I may not vote, but I want to share my training and experience as a LAFCO member to help the commission make their decisions. So I appreciate your vote. Look forward to coming back as a alternate member. Thank you.
Hartman?
Are we back for deliberations, or how should we proceed next?
First, I was curious, is there nothing with Sevis, okay? I was thinking maybe instead of, as my concern, we don't jump into a motion here and instead have a little bit of discussion about some of the merits. So are you ready to, all right, Hartman.
Well, we're really lucky to have 4 amazing candidates, and all of them
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Public comment.
Oh.
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, we have no request to speak under general public comment for this item.
Okay. Sorry, now.
Okay, because this is kind of esoteric stuff, and we've had times when we really don't have experienced candidates. So we really have a wealth here to choose from. I am very much committed to a single candidate, and I'd like to lay out the reasoning why. And I support Shane Stark. He has a lot of experience and expertise serving on LAFCO, having been on county council. He knows a lot about the underlying structure. When we look at the attendance and preparation, he's probably the best. He never misses a meeting. He's always reading the materials. He always has good questions, and he makes us think. I mean, it seems sort of obvious to me. Shane, why are you asking that? And then it turns out that there's more and more levels of depth that I hadn't even anticipated. He's been fabulous in representing us on the state LAFCO, and he also goes to the meetings every year on land use planning, UCLA. And he always brings these back and shares with us what he's learned. And I guess most sensitive, but I'm going to lay it out there, is he's very collaborative and he's very compromising. One of the most difficult issues that this board faced was Bailey Avenue. And while it was a quite decisive 6-1 vote, it was Shane who was trying to say, well, how do we find a better compromise here? And it was his probing, his continuing to question that led our executive officer to come up with the idea that we should, in fact, develop a proposal where we get ahead of this and work with the cities and the county, and LAFCO would take a different role. So I really trace that back to Shane's ability to, with his quiet, persistent questioning that you don't always get what's behind it, and then as it evolves, you do. So I think we're really lucky to have him willing to serve, and I'm going to be strongly supporting his candidacy.
Lee.
Wow. How can you top that? I fully support your decision, Supervisor Hartman. I would like to propose the alternate members to be the ad hoc committee's recommendation of Roger Aceves as the alternate. I think his experience and his resume speaks volumes that he'll be an incredible member of this board.
Guyer.
I do support all that Commissioner Hartman said about Commissioner Stark. I think at the committee level, and I'm not speaking for the committee, but it's my remembrance of what we talked about, it was a difficult decision for all of us. I think in the end, there was a feeling of responsibility by the ad hoc committee to show that we change the positions. And in particular, when you're dealing with 4 qualified people, it was really difficult to, I guess, set that aside, that the position itself, it's an appointed position, and that I feel that the commission has a responsibility to alternate that position, the appointment to it. It's not an election. It's not appointed by city or county. It's by the commission. And that was our feeling.
Hartman?
Well, I've heard this commission in other settings say how the continuity and expertise is important. I notice all of us who have an opportunity to come back have taken that opportunity rather than stepping aside ourselves to allow others to come in for change. So change for change's sake, for me, isn't a compelling argument.
Any other comments maybe from Patino?
You know, it's really difficult when you see 4, as Commissioner Hartman said, when you see 4 people that are so very well qualified. And I'd almost feel like I'd rather just put their names in a hat and draw the names, but I know that doesn't work. You know, I've worked with all of these people, and I have so much respect for all of them. I know Mrs. Waterfield certainly liked having Mr. Aceves on there, and what a strong commissioner he was. And then I look also at what Ms. Osborne did as the mayor of Lompoc, and what she's had to go through, and her experience with LAFCO, which I think is immense. I see myself probably having to go through that same exercise. And so I can see the strengths in each one of these people. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Oh, Guyer?
I have one other feeling. The ad hoc committee itself, too, I think weighed a heavy responsibility on showing support for a North County position and a South County position to maintain that. It took a lot of years, and I know over the years that I've been a commissioner, in some of the early years, we took a lot of flack for partiality. And so that definitely weighed into the decision of the ad hoc committee.
I'll just chime in, that was my recollection too, that we have a chance to kind of rotate it around so that you have that regional balance and opportunity.
Some thoughts I have. One of which is that we're looking at the idea of the wanting change and wanting to have the kind of rotation. I guess it's a little bit of a confusing thought process to me when three of the candidates are people who are just on the board, or some of them are now, but have just been on the commission as of a month ago. Looking at the candidates that we have here, one thing I'll say. Earlier in this meeting, I had mentioned that I had tried myself become the public member of the commission back in 2015. It was just 10 years ago. The process for that was kind of funny because I was the only person who applied. And then the subcommittee decided that actually we're not going to appoint anybody. We're going to try to get more applications. And so we punted it for, it was punted for a month. And then I was the only person who had applied. And then the subcommittee decided that they were going to attempt to get more applications. And actually, I remember Craig making a comment that like, it almost seems unfair to Jay in the audience here. He's been waiting. He's the only person who's applied. And then Shane applied. And I have never once felt bad about Shane getting that position. And I have continually this entire time felt actually that it was a great thing that the commission decided to wait on my application until they succeeded in convincing Shane to do it, or if somebody convinced Shane to do it, and then Shane applied. Shane's, from my perspective, his input into the issues that we have based on his background in land use planning law, the work as county counsel for a long time, but then having been away long enough in order to make it so that it actually like provides a lot of impartiality, the support that he's lended, various projects and things. I've had an opportunity over the years now to attend multiple events with Shane, and the amount that I've been able to learn from Shane with respect to CEQA and some of the more complex corner cases of municipal service review work and everything has just been absolutely amazing to me. And I would personally really love to see us maintain Shane on this commission. And so my support is also strongly with Shane. I appreciate the idea that maybe he doesn't want to be a four-year position. I support him being as long as he's capable of doing it. But if he doesn't want to do it, then it's support of alternate. But that's a big thing for me. Hartman?
I'd be willing to put forward a motion if we're ready.
Not sure if we are quite yet. We've got some. I think was Lee about to? Yeah.
Do you want to do it together or separate? For regular and alternate at the same time, or just one at a time?
Separately, okay.
I guess before we get into motions, I'm still trying to suss out, is there a general consensus that there should be
I agree with you.
a north-south balance before we get into motions? Because once we get into motions, if one passes, you're done. Although I think we had talked about doing two separate for the regular and the alternate, right?
Correct. We would look for just a motion for the regular seat first.
I'd be more comfortable before we start getting into motion one and motion two, just kind of making sure we're all generally aligned on that question, because that may influence how I vote on each motion.
Yeah, honestly, if it weren't for these comments about the north-south balance, I probably people who are going to be like, why are you saying this, Jay? But Sevis had made a comment a little bit earlier about how he was very, concerned about the process of the Isla Vista construction of the Isla Vista Community Service District. But at the same time, I respected that the whole time, and I felt that Roger's position on that was very consistent. And I think that a lot of the positions I remember when he was on the board with us, particularly on contract negotiations and on the gritty, nitty-gritty details of things were really powerful. And so I would have been, the idea of a little bit of change, he's been gone for years, but that would be to South County, so I kind of appreciate that point.
Yeah. I'm not compelled by the north-south as much. I think it's important, but I think even more important are just the qualities that the people bring and the range of political philosophy and ideas that are represented. I think we get a lot of diversity on the board no matter what, and so I think it really hamstrings us.
I do hear that. I will just also say, prior to my being able to come onto the commission as an alternate, there was an imbalance with the city representative. You had Santa Maria and you had Mid-County, so you had kind of two North County city, and then I came on as an alternate. So I just want to kind of point that out. Like, we did survive it, and I think we were a good commission. I did feel the sensitivity, and I feel like I wasn't alone in feeling that sensitivity, but I can be persuaded.
Lee, was your light on? I said, Lee, was your light on?
I just want to say that I think all 4 applicants will represent equally North and South County. So location is not important to me. I think it should be based on the character and the experience of the candidates.
Going down that direction, I'll say one thing that I found, so the idea then, to me, my mind, is that one of the points of the public member is to be somebody who represents the people. And that's another point where I sort of would say that I feel that while Shane has worked for the county a while ago, and part of what Shane's position was more, I feel, more balanced with respect to the knowledge that he brings in, and now subsequently his work at the nonprofit with the women's and what is it? The League of Women Voters, thank you. I always get, there's two couple with similar names, and I get the mix. The League of Women Voters brings him a lot of opportunity in order to kind of connect with people and bring the interests of people to this commission. And that past that point, I will actually, interestingly say, I feel that Roger's work since he's left the city has been going down that direction, and that, again, having somebody who's kind of more disconnected from things and has been disconnected from things within this for years is a little bit powerful. And so I would now lend my support towards Shane and Roger.
Ready for a motion?
Is there any more discussion anyone would like to have? If not, okay, motion.
So I move that we appoint Shane Stark to the full-serving member for a 4-year term.
I thought you wanted to.
May I, Mr. Chair?
I think we actually would like that clarification, yes, yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy to serve as a voting member, but I should tell you, I told you before, I'm 82 years old. I cannot guarantee that my health's going to hold up indefinitely, which is why I say I would frankly be more comfortable with a 2-year term. I'm happy to participate as a voting member. If you appointed me to a 4-year term, you probably ought to be on notice that I might very well decide at the end of 2 years that's enough, and it's not unforeseeable that my unaccountably robust health would tank on me at any point. Does that answer your question?
It does. That's why we have an alternate, right?
That is why we have an alternate. I will also ask, Shane, do you feel that serving on the commission will help or harm your health going forward?
Excuse me?
Do you feel that serving on the commission will help or harm your health going forward?
This is going to sound strange to you. Service on LAFCO pretty much keeps me sane. It serves a variety of functions that serve to reduce the amount of existential stress in my life. Remember, I'm a lucky guy. I retired from the county, and I got retirement from a city too. So I'm good. My house is paid off. I live on the Mesa, got no complaints, except when I have to engage with the real world. It is necessary for me to feel like I'm doing something that has some tangible benefit to my community LAFCO fits this ideally. It's technical and it's useful and it's good. So LAFCO is a positive as far as I'm concerned. The League of Women Voters, a great organization, is a source of considerable stress to me. But that's different.
Another story.
That answer your, is that?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I renew my motion?
Please do.
I would like to nominate Shane Stark for a 4-year term for our public member.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Hartman, second by Lee. Moving on to a roll call vote.
Chair, before we
Wait,
get
yes.
into the roll call vote, excuse me, I will remind the commission that a vote from one of each of the candidate slots has to be made +1 for majority. So that is one member from each category, county, city, special districts, has to vote for Mr. Stark, plus one more for the majority.
Thank you so much. Moving on to roll call.
Commissioner Guyer,
Well, geez, after all this talk about age, and I'm about a year and a half behind him, I don't know whether I'll make it here or not. I'll vote aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriakou,
Aye.
Commissioner Patino,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Chair Freeman.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Okay. Moving on to the alternate position. You will hear a motion for this.
I'll move to appoint Roger Estevez as the alternate.
I'll second that.
Motion by Guyer, second by Lee. Moving on to roll call.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriakou,
Aye.
Commissioner Patino,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Chair Freeman.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Now, does this immediately take, or do we have to do swearing in now, or what happens?
So this appointment is for start of March. So we will swear them in our March meeting. Our current members, Mr. Shane Stark and Mr. Jim Richardson, will continue on serving through February.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So, Shane resumes his place on the dais. Moving on to business item number 2. Will the clerk please read that item into the record? Or sorry, this is item number 3. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, business item number 3 is selection of chair and vice chair for 2025.
Executive officer to report.
Okay. Well, that does alter my presentation for this item. Since I wasn't sure whether or not the commission was going to be able to come to an agreement on their public member who happens to be up and running for the vice chair seat, I was going to suggest something different. However, this is the time of the year in which the commission gets to rotate their seats for chair and vice chair. There is a rotational element that the commission has always kind of subscribed to, and that is having your current vice chair, which is Alice Patino, from our city district representation, move into the chair position, and the public member becomes the vice chair. Now that we do have an appointed public member who is still actively sitting and will not need to retake the oath in March, we're free to appoint both those members. However, the commission does have the opportunity to select any member as their chair and vice chair. You don't necessarily have to stick with the rotation. With that said, this is an opportunity for you to discuss amongst yourself who you'd like to chair for 2025 and who you'd like to be your vice chair.
Okay. To verify, you were saying that the usual rotation would be that the public member is vice chair?
The normal rotation is vice chair becoming chair.
Yes, I grabbed that part. but
And the public member becoming the vice chair.
So I guess I actually have a question. Shane, you,
City, I think. It says,
oh,
following order, city, public, county, and special district. So you're now special district. It would roll back to city, I think.
No, city becomes chair,
City becomes chair and
public becomes vice chair.
yeah. So the question, I was asking this partly because I was, after this one of our discussion here, Shane, are you up for the,
vice chair I can handle.
okay. Okay, so we have a usual process for this. We can make this very pro forma. Does anyone, or actually, is there anyone have any questions about the process? And we can move on to public comment, and then we'll do motions. Any questions about the process?
So someone from a city is going to be chair, someone from the public would be vice chair, and then whichever one next vacates, then you just rotate.
Yeah, well, necessarily
So
next
the
vacate, but
chair
usually it
be
would,
public.
Yes.
Someone else.
and usually I
special
think also
district.
it's the vice president becomes the president. Like the very pro forma way of doing this would
Okay.
be that Patino becomes president and our voting public member, because we only have one of those, becomes vice president. And so, is there any public comment?
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
Okay, moving on to a motion, unless anyone wants to drastically change something weird.
Can we do both in one motion? I move to, that the commission appoint Commissioner Patino as the chair for the coming term and Commissioner Stark as the vice chair for the coming term.
I'll second.
Motion by Stark, second by Kiriakou. And roll call.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriakou,
Aye.
Commissioner Patino,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Chair Freeman.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, and with that, I've had a lot of fun being chair this past year, but it's kind of, I can't pass the gavel because she's too far away, but I passed the metaphorical gavel off to Patino.
Okay. Okay, Chair Patino, that puts you as our chair for the remainder of this meeting. You can ask the clerk to call business item 5.
Wouldn't it be, wouldn't it be easier if Chair Freeman just continued the meeting?
We could do that as well.
I'm happy to do that.
I think that would be a very appropriate, and I thank you very much.
Okay. So continuing on to business item number 4, will the clerk please read that item? Oh, no. 5. It is 5.
Right.
4 is pulled. That's right. I pulled 4. Next item is business item number 5. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, business item number 5 is to receive and file a report on the 2024-2025 commission activities and to adopt a work plan for 2025.
Executive Officer to report.
All right, thank you. Do we have a clicker? The keyboard. Oh, the keyboard. Sorry. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is a look back year-end review of our 2024 year. Exciting as it was, boy, 25's already living up to its reputation. So the first meeting is often a good time to look back at the activities that the commission undertook in the past year. The commission held 10 meetings. We took the summer off. We had various ad hoc meetings as well that initially delve into sort of the urban ag component issue. We had a couple of those meetings. And then we also had the public member ad hoc as well. So we had 2 different ad hoc committees. LAFCO staff attends a number of meetings that a variety of countywide of importance. This particular report that's been put together kind of highlights some of those during that past year. And the PowerPoint will kind of walk us through some of those. As we like to do every year, is to offer our thank yous and kudos to all of the agencies that we work with. Without their hard work and dedication, we would not be able to produce the level of MSR work that we are engaged in, the commitment that they make to continue the MOA work that we've touched upon, and partnerships within seeking a SALT grant. So there's just a few of things that we've been really engaged with. And many of these agencies and their staff members are applauded here for the work that they do, and to our own staff, both our legal counsel and Natasha with Amber and Amy. We wouldn't be able to pull off the workload that we pull off with such a small office. So thank you for all of your dedication. You sort of what make LAFCO be able to move the needle here. In the end, the commission did take action on 6 applications. 3 of them were out-of-agency service agreements. The other 3 were annexations, 2 of which involved sphere of amendments to the Kalita Sand District. Some of the other highlights involved there was a slight delay in the transportation MSR, particularly when it dealt with Santa Rita Hills. But we deferred that, and we were able to come to some conclusion and amend that and move that district forward, and hopefully they can make some real progress. So with that MSR, that's a kind of a key component that the transportation MSR did. And then just in December, we adopted the Parks and Rec open space library facility rental MSR. So we got 2 MSRs off the books there in our 2024 year. We also brought on new legal counsel through that contract. It was an easy transition to make. The city selection committee went through a round of nominations as well, and they reappointed and shuffled the deck on the city members, and we went through an election process for the special districts as well. Again, the commission was forethought in allowing LAFCO to sort of take the lead on the Round 10 SALT grant opportunity. So we've spearheaded that, and we've coordinated a team to be able to put that together. This month, we'll be putting together the pre-proposal, which is due January 31st, and we hope to bring back to the commission in February where that sits with a status report. But essentially, we've created a core team there and pushing that work along forward. We've also coordinated the MOA series with the cities, and I think now we're going to try to merge the SALT grant efforts with the MOA efforts and kind of mold that into one big effort for all of our participants to engage in and offer that as a public engagement opportunity as well, and really set a framework for how we can engage in an effective MOA between the cities and the county. In addition, we've monitored a number of state legislative matters, primarily with the use of Cal LAFCO and their LEDGE committee and your executive officer's participation in monitoring that and bringing forward any new bills that might be coming forward that are particularly germane to Santa Barbara. And we prepare the budgets and all that reporting and make sure that the day-to-day operations are in operation. And we attend any other public meetings that we're engaged to participate in, particularly when we try to encourage folks to learn more about LAFCO and the work that we do and how it really can involve them early on and help them if they ever need some application from us. So that was 2024. Looking ahead at 2025, we're going to continue the proposals that were submitted. One just got submitted right at the tail end of the year for 400 North San Marcos. So they got an older date tag for their file number, but we are just starting that particular application. And we still have a couple others that are, say they're going to submit sometime soon. So we're looking to have a pretty busy 2025 year. Later on this agenda, we'll talk about two of the applications that are still lagging from the previous year and where their status is. But if you look at the radar, you'll see that log is still long. Over 20 annexations or reorganization proposals are sort of looming out there. These are applications that have reached out to us from individuals or agencies that said they're aware of these annexations that they want to work on. They just need to work through it on their end before they get a formal submittal in. And so we don't actually can't predict when those applications are going to hit our office door, but we anticipate them probably within a year or so. And what's not on that list is the communications that I've had with particularly Montecito Water. On the heels of their municipal service review, they had a number of study sessions that the commission considered. 12, if I'm not reminding correctly. It was a large number of areas that we considered. And largely that dealt with how were they going to deal with their boundary if they were going to consolidate with Montecito San. Ultimately, those two districts decided to not consolidate and go through that effort and stay two independent districts. So on the heels of that, I've had a conversation with moving forward with any boundary changes that align with their boundaries. Largely because their boundaries have to deal with taxing parcels within their water agency, and certain parcels receive no benefit, but they may be taxed, or they don't get proper noticing because of a contaminated water or something. And so they wanted to really align that. And so they've taken that MSR to heart, and they're going to be bringing something back to their board and probably put together some sort of phased approach in how to address their annexations. And so I see a handful of proposals that will come before the commission that is the result of that MSR work. So that's a good use of that document. We will be applying for the SALT grant round 10 application. As I indicated, we're in the pre-proposal stage. We're going to submit that by the end of this year, or by the end of this month in January. The state will give us some feedback, help refine how our actual application should look, and how our budget aligns with those goals and the tasks that we're going to seek. And then ultimately, that application, as a resolution, will come back before this commission to be a formal application in late summer, early fall, when that application is due for that grant. Ultimately, the awarding of that would not occur until 2026. We're going to continue our MOA program with our partnerships in those discussions. We've discussed a couple of times, a couple of rounds with a couple of cities, and we're still continuing those. I think we're getting some good feedback, and we're going to sort of try to re-hone some of the work effort that needs to go into that. And again, here's where I'm trying to dovetail some of the SALT grant work with this MOA work, where we can put together kind of an MO framework and use the public process and transparency through that process to bring constituents in on the conversations that the cities might be having with the county, so that the cities can feel comfortable that the decisions that they make with that MOA is supported by their constituents. So I think that's how we're going to sort of begin to dovetail that conversation. And then the commission, through the Parks and Rec MSR, was faced with this island annexation sort of approach with the city of Santa Barbara and how we deal with those. And the commission gave feedback that we should continue to pursue some sort of level of agreement and approach and document so that we can begin to move forward the islands that surround the city of Santa Barbara to ultimate annexation into their city. And so we've been having those discussions, and we're going to continue to hold sort of monthly meetings, roundtable discussions with the city and various agencies. We held it with the Water District and Sanitation District. We're holding them with the county Public Works departments to really get down at the nitty-gritty of what are the issues and needs that need to be addressed to be able to move those islands into the city, and how can we best effectuate that? And with the ultimate goal being that the commission would take some sort of action that would one time grant the city an out-of-agency service agreement, carte blanche, to the parcels that are identified within this annexation agreement area, in which then the city can pursue long-term pursuit of annexation under some phased approach that's outlined in that agreement. And that would give the commission some confidence about the ultimate landing spot for these parcels and how they'll be addressed. And so it's a lot of work involved in that. It's probably going to take much more than the upcoming year or even 2 years. But we're making some good progress and learning a lot about these areas and who they're being served by and how those service connections came about. So we're going to continue that and still hold kind of monthly meetings to learn more. The other activities that we engage in is we engage with more appointments. We just appointed a public member. We'll have a city selection committee being appointed by the mayors at their upcoming meeting in January 16th. And then we'll start next year the rounds in 2026. There are more seats that come up on the commission, and so we'll begin starting that at the tail end of 2025. I have an upcoming meeting with the grand jury as well. Every year I meet with them, talk about LAFCO and what it is that we do, and anything that we can impart about services and the service models throughout the county. And we're still engaged in completing our audit for 2024 with Davis Farr, and we hope to bring that back to the commission in the coming months. Here is the list of kind of the projects on the radar screen. As I indicated, 400 North San Marcos, number 5, actually got submitted, so we can take that off the radar and put it in the column of active application. The Richards Ranch reorganization hasn't officially submitted their application yet by the city, but the developer did want to get an early start at their map and legal review. And so we allowed them to submit that early to the surveyor's office with an independent check. They've reevaluated that and have done a first level review and has redlined their remarks. And they'll continue to refine that as they move forward. But we did, for the purposes of that, identify a LAFCO number for them so that they can get into the start. But we don't have a formal application yet from the city. We expect that sometime here this month in January or start of February. Any others on the list, if they kind of jot at you and you want to know more about, I can highlight what those are about and speak to them more eloquently at a later date as well. So with that, kind of a first look ahead at what the commission should expect is, obviously we didn't get to the Bonita School because we had to pull that item, so we'll be bringing that back once we've had a chance to speak with their representatives, and we'll recalendar that, but I suspect it'll be within the first few months here on how that looks. In February, I anticipate Richards Ranch to be submitted, and so I'm anticipating that we might be able to do an early study session with them in February. I think it would be good to know the applicant has submitted an application to the county under the left me blank. Yeah, the SB 330. Back when the county didn't have a housing element, and so there is a proposal on there as well that they can operate from. So I think the commission might have some understanding of how those two proposals look and contrast to one another if annexation was not to occur. And so we'll hopefully be able to get that on our February. If not, we'll move it to March. And then again, I think one of those annexations that were holdovers from last year will likely be ready by March. And so we'll probably have an annexation at that point for that. And another component that I'm hoping to bring forward is kind of a study of LAFCO's conditioning authority. It kind of came up with the Bonita school site about whether or not we should condition it with an out-of-agency service agreement and what our full authority is. And so I would like to put together kind of a conversation piece of a report of what is your authority to add conditions and what type of conditions can you add, both at a out-of-agency service agreement level, at a sphere of influence change level, and at an annexation or reorg level. How far can the commission go and sort of bring some light to that? And so we hope to target that in the first quarter as well. And then that brings us to April, where we start the budget sessions. And again, this year we are looking to try to bring on a clerk part-time in some capacity, whether that is through contractual service agreements, through an employment arrangement, in some form or fashion. So we're still looking into those models and see what best fits that can align with our budget without causing too much trepidation for our members. So with that, if there are any questions of the commission, happy to answer anything. Again, very productive 2024, very busy 2025. And we hope that the commission basically receives the report, but we are looking for a motion to adopt this work plan, which involves getting into the municipal service review for our fifth round, our final round, which is the miscellaneous service review that covers all other reports. That's attachment B as our main guiding document. Continuing our work on the SOLT grant, continue our work on the MOA process, and continue our work with the island annexation agreement with the city of Santa Barbara. So those are our work priorities for 2025. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the commission? Stark.
I have a sort of a clarifying question. Am I correct? This is a plan, and it's subject to modification as the exigencies of life appear. Is that right? So we could be doing more things, less things, just depends on what happens.
Yeah, correct. And so when you adopt this plan, it really helps me set what our budget is and what our expectations of what we can achieve for the upcoming April budget hearings. But at any point, as we did last year, we added a number of things. We added certainly the island annexation stuff. We added more involvement in the SOLT grant than we anticipated. It started out as a coordinate to see if there's any partnerships, and then it became let's be lead, right? So we can evolve this plan at any time, but it does help me kind of forelay what we think the budget might entail to achieve this work.
Geyer?
Would we have a discussion or agenda item for the clerking position prior to the budget?
Potentially. I don't have a full commitment yet of what that looks like. So I hope to do that. But if it comes together at the final end, at the pre-budget, it may end up just being on a budget. But I hope to bring something separate independently to the commission so that you have a full understanding of what level of commitment you're going to sign on to before the budget. But I can't promise that because I don't know what that looks like right now.
All right. Any public comment?
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
Okay. Is there any, I guess maybe just a motion to receive and file, or?
Is the recommendation to adopt the work plan?
The recommendation is to adopt the work plan for 2025.
Okay.
I'll move to adopt.
You turned the mic off by accident. There you go.
Oh, I did it again. I'll move to adopt the work plan as recommended by our EO.
Motion by Stark, second by Geyer. Moving on to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Geyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Carriaco,
Aye.
Commissioner Patino,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Chair Freeman.
Aye.
Sorry, Commissioner Freeman.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Moving on to information item number 1. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Information item number 1 is to receive and file a report on pending Santa Barbara LAFCO applications.
Executive Officer to report.
Okay, this report includes the 2 holdout applications from 2024, and I'll add a third for the commission's information. 2810 Mission Drive applied for an annexation into the San Ynez CSD. That came from the CSD by resolution of application. They were deemed incomplete because they did not submit their map and legal descriptions for that parcel. Subsequently, the landowners of that parcel has had some family health issues, and so they kind of had to delay some of their activity in getting that work done. And so we've afforded them to proceed at their own time frame when they felt was okay for them. And then Richard Ranch, as I indicated, they submitted just their map and legal and not their actual application. So they're still pending their 30-day review once we receive the resolution of application from the city of Santa Maria. And then lastly was the 400 North San Marcos, which got added in post the publication of this agenda, but they're in their a simple annexation into the Goleta Sanitation District. So those are the 3 current active applications that we have right now. If there are any questions of those, I'm happy to answer anything.
All right. Any questions or comments? Your mic's on, Stark. I don't know if you wanted to. Nope. Okay. Moving on. Patino. Is anyone in?
No one here.
All right. Is any public comment?
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
Okay. With no motion needed, maybe move on to information item number 2. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Freeman and members of the commission, information item number 2 is to receive and file a report on the LAFCO board January 10th, 2025 meeting.
Executive Officer report.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this is a very important upcoming meeting for tomorrow. LAFCO board is holding a meeting tomorrow. Included in the agenda packet is a Zoom link that I'm encouraging all of our commissioners to attend. The board is going through some turmoil. As you can see, as part of the letters that have been submitted by a number of executive officers, San Bernardino LAFCO has withdrawn their membership from LAFCO. And LAFCO board will have to wrestle with the direction they want to move forward as an organization. And so primarily, what's important and germane for Santa Barbara is whether or not there is more fallout from other LAFCOs that want to withdraw their membership. And as if another significant LAFCO does, that pays considerable into the membership dues, that membership will have to be spread amongst the remaining members that remain. And so we'll need some feedback, and I encourage the commission to even deliberate just a bit to give me a sense of where you feel Santa Barbara sits on this issue so that I would be able to speak freely on our behalf with LAFCO and its members, because I was not a signer onto the letter, because I did not have a sense of where we sat as far as where this commission was feeling, whether we would continue to be a member if other members withdrew their membership. But if I can get a sense from the commission about what that looks like, I'd feel in a much better spot to be able to speak on behalf of Santa Barbara LAFCO independently. So with that, the board, this all stemmed from when the board sort of defunct the ledge committee, in which a number of us EOs signed a letter saying we wanted them to bring that back into the fold. The board did take that action, reinstated the ledge committee. It's back functioning, and that they would address it in a strategic planning level. So this January 10th is also setting their strategic plan meeting date and what they want to focus on in that strategic plan. So they may want to take another look at their best approach and how to deal with legislative matters, and particularly at the state, because it is a challenge getting a voice at the Cal LAFCO level with the state. And so they did make an attempt to bring in a lobbyist. They retained the lobbyist, even though they reinstated the ledge committee. And so those are the items that Cal LAFCO is going to be discussing. And lastly is the dues, right? So the dues membership is up. It's going up as it has been in the previous years. Initially, it's not going up tremendous in that I don't think it affects our budget per se with the small percent. However, if other LAFCOs do drop out of membership and they redistribute that cost, we'd have to take another look about whether or not our budget could sustain that. So the end goal is let our commission pay attention to this meeting tomorrow, voice our opinion, and have a deliberation so that as your executive officer, I can voice our opinion to the broader Cal LAFCO community. So with that, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer any.
Harmon.
Well, thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. It comes a little late maybe for some of us, but I wonder if we could, if there is anybody who's free, one or two members who could make a commitment and report back to us. I think it's really important that we be involved, and I'd rather not just say, well, if you can, but actually see if we can wrestle somebody's commitment to do it.
Kiriako.
I can be available.
Great.
Stark.
I'm not sure how much I can participate tomorrow, but I've got grandkids coming. I'll try to tune into the Zoom. I understand it's on Zoom. You get it through the Cal LAFCO website.
The Zoom link would be through the agenda.
And can I assume that this is going to be agendized for a report at the February meeting, and we can take whatever action that we need to take at that time?
I will bring back a follow-up of the decisions they make as I'm attending via Zoom. It's an all-day event. It's in person for a majority of folks, but they did offer a Zoom link as well. And this runs from, I believe it's like 9 to 4 o'clock or something like that.
It says 10 to 4 on the agenda here.
If I may ask, Mr. Through the acting chair, I guess, is this is their annual strategic planning meeting? Is it?
No, I don't think this is their strategic planning meeting. I think this is to set the strategic plan amongst other things that they're doing.
Okay. And this was at least precipitated by what I would term as a mini revolt of some of the LAFCOs who were distressed by one thing or another. I think this is pretty serious. I'll just the benefit of my fellow commissioners. Cal LAFCO is a nonprofit organization. It's a 501c3. It has a lobbying limit, which means that its financial wherewithal to effectively put pressure on legislatures is significantly limited, and they got to use their brains and their contacts and things like that. And I'm also under the impression that financially, Cal LAFCO is not particularly flush. They don't have a lot of big outside agencies or vendors pouring a lot of money into it, so that their ability to do things like hire staff, get facilities and stuff like that is severely strained. And I'm not sure how effectively Cal LAFCO can survive as a lobbying organization if a couple of big counties leave, which would lead us in a pretty vulnerable position should we need to avail ourselves in Sacramento, hypothetically, if the legislature decides they're going to fire some builder's remedies stuff at LAFCOs, which is not out of the realm of possibility. I think it's really important that we pay attention to this and cooperate with whoever we need to cooperate with to get this on a functioning track.
Guyer.
Yeah, I've followed this pretty closely through the communication that you've given us and a little bit of research myself, and I am pretty upset about this. I think the biggest thing that bothers me, and it takes me back to, I don't know what it was, maybe 14 or 15 when they had a big fiasco over the dues. But what bothers me the worst about it is the general feeling that I get from the letters and stuff that were sent is LAFCO not listening and not having participation in some of the decisions. To me, they are there to serve us, and that should include us.
So verify when Commissioner Kiriako had said he was available tomorrow. Did you know it was 10 to 4? And are you still?
I can have it on.
Okay.
I may rely on Commissioner Stark for translation of LAFCO terms and terminology.
That would imply a degree of wakeness that may not be present.
Do we know if there's a particular time period of the meeting that's extra sensitive?
Looking at the agenda, the draft agenda is in your packet. Attachment A. There are a number of items, looks like 15 items on the agenda. I think the ones that come up mostly germane to us is number 8, which is the recently received correspondence from the EOs. Number 9, which is the membership dues. And number 11, which is their 23-26 strategic plan and what they set as their course for that. Those are the 3 that I would pay most attention to.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's all bad from beginning to end.
To clarify earlier, so there was a comment about attending and then reporting back to us, but the decisions are being made tomorrow. So,
well,
correctly?
we'll see what LAFCO does. I anticipate they'll make some decisions. They may defer. We'll see how the conversation goes, because there is quite a few LAFCOs that are quite upset about what's going on, and it may take a long time to allow all those voices to be heard, and they may not get to everything as well. So we'll see how it goes, but I plan to bring a follow-up at our February meeting to report back as to what I heard through my attendance. I'll be attending it from 10 to 4 via Zoom, and I'll take my notes and report out of what I think are the germane salient points that came out of that for the Commission's edification, and whether or not that causes us to have to do something, re-agendize an item or something. We'll see what that leads to.
One thing I didn't quite catch is the reason why there's so much issues about, and there are questions about the transparency and all sorts of stuff relating to the circus of a meeting that was at the LAFCO event that we were at recently. I know there was a lot of concern and the regional roundtable after that, but I'm not certain if I really understand what the catalyst of this sudden seeming exodus of various districts or certain counties from it are.
I think the letters from the EO is the most salient points of what their concerns are. They vary by county LAFCOs, but generally I think the sense is that the EOs and oftentimes have been cut out of the conversations and decisions that are happening. And then we are sort of more or less informed of what the decision was and not part of the participation in that decision. And that in and of itself has sort of led to this distrust of what's going on and the decisions that are being made. And the decision makers that are in the room oftentimes are other participants that aren't EO LAFCOs or not representative of LAFCOs. And so there may be some biases in those decision-making processes. And so those are the concerns I think that have been raised, where we want to get back to having Cal LAFCO actually serve its members and us be the drivers of the need for the service.
Mr. May I ask, do we have, I have a vague recollection of seeing that letter to the EOs. Have you copied that to the commission or from the EOs? It's quite a powerful letter.
I
And
have
long, I might
I
add.
have blind copied the commission for those, for your edification. I did not include it as part of this packet as it was confidential.
Could you circulate a copy?
I can recirculate that, but I did send a late hitting EO letter that did come in. I did forward that to the commissioners.
Thank you.
Commissioner Freeman?
Yes, Patino.
Okay. I like Commissioner Hartman's idea of at least having a couple of people tuning in on this, but and I'm sure when you have more people, you'll have different perspectives, but certainly Mr. Prater can come back with what he thought went on. I will be out of town at a wedding. I don't know, people are getting married any day of the week anymore, not just Saturdays, so I will be out of town all day at a wedding tomorrow.
Thank you. I don't know. So I don't know if you've received particular feedback other than some of us think it's very important. Maybe most of us think it's very important. But I don't know if we've succeeded in making you feel any more satisfied with your ability to. Yeah.
Chair Freeman, if you would, the sentiment that I do take away with is there is significant concern that pertains to the issues that were brought up in a letter. Beyond that, there's additional concern about our continued participation as a member should significant LAFCOs begin to fall out of membership. And so that I feel comfortable conveying back to Cal LAFCO that Santa Barbara would be kind of in that same boat, if you will, as we see other LAFCOs, if they decide to disengage from the membership, that we would not want to see that cost passed on to us, and that's a concern for us. Not that we are leaving, but it's a concern for us, and we would have to take that under consideration.
Thank you. Shane, do you think that's a fair summary, some of your thoughts?
I think it's appropriate for the EO to communicate an aura of concern, but I think it's way premature for us to take any specific action without knowing the pros and cons and the direness of the situation.
She may be a little less comfortable with the threat, you're saying?
I'd say an implied threat would be good. We think it's serious, and we want them to fix it. I think that's the message. What we don't know is whether there is any actual dissatisfaction with the person who runs the Cal LAFCO. There's no way of us knowing that until it actually happens. So that's sort of in the back of my mind. But I think the EO knows the concerns and can adequately represent them to the extent we need to.
Okay, great. Unless
Commissioner Freeman?
Yes, Patino.
On the agenda, it says set the 2024-2025 member dues. Wouldn't it be 2025-2026 member dues? And when are those dues renewable?
Commissioner Patino, through the chair, you are correct. That should say the 25-26 dues, and those are due in July.
Oh, okay. Then we have time. Thank you.
All right. Then I guess moving on to commissioner announcements. Do we have any commissioner announcements or any requests for future agenda items? Stark.
I have a request. I would request that since possibly the single most substantive, valuable thing that we get as commissioner members is the UCLA Land Use Conference, and that was canceled this year. I don't know what the future of it at all is, but I would request that our EO, to the extent you're able to, search around and see if there is an appropriate substitute that we can avail ourselves of with respect to substantive training in land use law and environmental law, that we might have to take action to, enable ourselves to go to. But it's consistently proved to be a valuable source of information over the year. It's purely substantive, and I'd hate to miss out on the benefits. You never know when you keep current, what's going to be on the horizon. So I'd appreciate that.
Thank you. Hartman?
Well, we may recognize him at some point in the future, but I didn't want today to go by without recognizing Commissioner Richardson and his contribution to this organization. And you've always been there and a steady rudder and a good presence, and I really appreciate the service that you've given to LAFCO.
Well, thank you for that. It's been a real pleasure, really has. And I'll be back next month. And I'd like to make one comment about age. Commissioner Stark is a young man compared to me.
A veritable pup.
By 3 years. So, maybe that's why I'm not so, maybe that's why I'm like our...
We all get there, if we're lucky.
Thank you. Moving on to executive officer comments.
Okay, I have no further comments. Happy New
Okay.
Year, everybody.
And with that, we are now adjourned to Thursday, February 6th, 2025 at 1 p.m. in Santa Maria.